Hello.
Hey Mariana, how are you?
Good, and you?
Good, thank you.
So I was just telling the guys here that we're gonna talk about tax return, that we already select some questions here. I have here the questions and you're gonna help us to answer. So you can introduce yourself so everybody can know you.
Hi guys, thanks for the invitation. And yes, my name is Yaritza. I'm coming from YNS Accounting. So we are an accounting company that offer all the accounting services for students, for everyone, for businesses as well. As a company, we had offices in Brisbane, Sydney, Adelaide, Melbourne as well. And the idea of this time that we're going to share today here is that we can answer as many questions and clarify as many doubts that you guys have today.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's gonna start. The first question I have here is just, how do you say your name? Just forget it's
Yaritza.
Yaritza, because yeah, the beginning of your name I was in also Yaritza, sorry.
Yes, very hard to pronounce. I know that. I live with it all my life.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. So the first one, it's about, we know the financial year goes from July to June the next year, but we want to know what's the limit, the maximum deadline for you to load in your tax return.
Okay, so it all depends how you're going to do it. So we had two options to present the tax return to the government. One is to do it through your MyGov account, which is the free option. With that option, we had until the 31st of October, 2021. The second option, if you decide to do it with a registered tax agent and the accountant, if you are in the list of the accountant lodgement, you will have time until the 15th of May 2022.
Okay, so like a student can, if they pass the October, they can do, but they're gonna pay that.
They will have to do it with a tax agent, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. The other question is, should I always apply for my tax return? And do I need to do it even if I have a very low income or if I don't work in Australia?
The answer is you must, right? So it's very important to clarify, and probably this is a really good question, because this is like a myth that we have where people think that they don't have to do the tax return because they earned a little bit of money. So very important, the obligation that to do the tax return is something that we get at the time that we apply for the tax file number. So yes, we had to do our tax return. The second part is, are we going to pay tax to the government? So usually, if you earn little money, less than 18,200, you won't have to pay them tax, but you will have to do your tax return all the time. So that's very important. That is two separate things, like the obligation to present it and if we had to pay taxes or not.
Okay, all right. And I know that so if the person like do work for an offshore company or something, they need to do it as well, right?
If they're paying them to the Australian bank account, they will have to do it.
Okay,
because
if they receive the money.
If, for example, I don't know, exactly, if they're receiving the money through the bank system, and they will say, where this money coming from? Yes.
Perfect. I think that's the main point. If you receive money in your accounts, you need to think how we're going to explain that. So you need to do.
Exactly.
Okay, perfect. All right. So another question that we have here, what does it mean to be a resident for a tax reason in Australia? Does everyone, does everyone on the student visa fit this profile or working holiday visa?
Okay, so let's start with the student visa. So with the student visa, there is one condition. So let's say that the test to be a resident for tax purposes is totally different to the test of immigration purposes, right? So for immigration purposes, you are resident only, you get a permanent visa. for tax purposes, we are a resident if we satisfy that we have been here in the country more than 183 days of the financial year. So most of the students, they arrive with 1 year visa. So most of them, they will satisfy that 183 days of being in Australia, right? So most of them, unless they had a visa of 5 months or something like that, they won't satisfy that, and they are going to be non-resident for tax purposes, right? So with the students, we satisfy these 183 days, and then most of them are going to become resident for tax purposes. With working holidays, is different. A working holiday is not resident for tax purposes, but then they only pay 15% in every dollar that they earn. So, and that's how they get taxed. They get taxed a little bit higher kind of thing, 15%. Why we want to be resident for tax purposes? The reason why we want to be residents is because if we are resident for tax purposes, the first $18,200 that we earn in Australia, we don't have to pay taxes in that money, right? So that's something that when obviously we present the tax return is in our favor, and that's why we always try to be resident for tax purposes. And that's this 18,200. Unfortunately, the people in working holiday won't have right to those ones.
Okay. Yeah, that's why they pay more. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, good to know. Perfect. Yeah, the other question actually was related to that, so you already answered us. That was about the tax rates for student visa and work holiday visa. So you just mentioned, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you can say if you need to add anything.
Just one extra thing. This year, we have, let's call a kind of discount. Now with COVID, the government has announced something that we call tax offsets. So usually, you know, if we earn more than 18,200, we start paying taxes. But if we apply all these tax offsets they are giving us this year, actually we can earn up to 23,226 and don't pay taxes. So that's a good thing this year as well. And this is just put it here so you guys keep it in mind. And that's also something good that come out from the annual budget that they did this year.
Okay. All right, that's good to know.
Yeah,
trying to help us with all the situation, right? Okay. So the next question is, just 1 second. What documents do I need to lodge my tax return?
Okay, so when we are students or when we work in Australia, we had 2 ways to earn money kind of thing. One is the tax file number when we work for someone that we are an employee, or when we decide to work with an ABN when we had our little business, right? So if you just work with tax file number in the whole year, you don't need to pretty much do much because your employer is the one who is going to tell the government how much he paid you. So that will be already uploaded in the system if you work with tax file number. So it's very easy. You work with tax file number, that's already in the system there, so you don't have to ask for any documents to anyone. However, if you work with ABN, then actually you have to go and summarize all the invoices that you earned during the year, and you actually have to, you know, to collect that information to know how much money you or how many invoices you received or were paid for you during the year for the ABN.
Okay. All right. Someone did a question actually related to the question before. They asked, how can we apply for that? I think, yeah, you know.
For what?
I think it was when you said that for the government, the relief related to the COVID.
Okay, no, so that's something that automatically, when you prepare the tax return, the tax offsets are going to be applied in the calculation. Right? Okay, so when you do the tax return, it should be automatically. So if you do it through MyGov, you expect that the system do it automatically. And with the accountants, the system, obviously, we just do a couple of clicks in the system. But you should be able to see it because when you go to the calculation, you should be able to see a line that says tax offsets.
Okay. All right. So it's quite easy, let's say, not easy.
Yeah.
Okay. For me, everything related to accounting is not easy. So that's why for me that is tricky. So the other question that we have, how does the tax-free, let's just read everything here. So how does the tax-free, it had a word here that complicated to read in English. It's like threshold.
Threshold.
Yeah, work to reduce the tax paid during the year.
Okay, so this question is similar to the 18,200 that we just spoke before.
Yeah, the same.
So the idea, and remember, we only get this to 18,200 that we don't pay taxes on, only if it satisfies the resident status. You know, if we had more than 183 days in Australia.
Yeah, I think now most of the people, because of COVID.
Yeah, this year no one is going out. Exactly. So most of them, no problem.
Yeah, yes. We don't have that case this year.
No.
How do you call this? Medicare levy? How do you say levy? Levy? How will you say that?
Levy.
Levy.
Yeah, so the Medicare levy.
Yeah. How can international students apply to not pay this fee? How it works?
Okay, so first let's clarify what is the Medicare, because I have some students that get confused that they are entitled to claim whatever they pay in the private health insurance in the tax return. So no, the Medicare, what it is like the Australian people that are resident for immigration purposes. The public system is free. For example, if you go to a hospital, you don't have to pay to go to the hospital. But the way that Australian people pay for the free medicine is through this tax. Let's call it a tax in the tax return. That is called Medicare, right? So when we go over the 23,226 that I just mentioned before, they start charging us this 2%. So sometimes, for example, if you earn, I don't know, say 30,000, they will charge you $800, right? So this is very important, because what they do is they automatically charge you because the system is designed for Australian people. So they will charge you the 800 as soon as you do your tax return. So what we had to do is do a Medicare levy exemption form. I will put the name here, and that's exactly how you find it you can Google it, Medicare levy exemption form. And we had to send this form with our passport and our visas. And what they do is Human Services process the form, and they send us back a letter where they say, yes, you don't have to pay the Medicare for this day to this day. And with that letter is that we tell the government, don't charge me this $800 because I don't have right to go to the public hospitals, and that is where I'm paying my private health insurance. Right. So
can you just repeat a little bit, because I think your microphone had just said you couldn't hear so well. So just repeat a little bit what you just said.
What I say. Okay, let me see. Okay, so what I say is we do the form, and the form is the one. Once we receive the letter, is with the letter that actually we tell them, don't charge me the $800.
Yeah,
that's the whole purpose of the Medicare. And this is very, very important, guys, to know it, because people pay a lot of money in Medicare, because sometimes what they do is they do the tax return automatically in MyGov. And because the system is designed for Australian people, they charge it. Unless you actually know about it, the students sometimes lost 600, 700 in 1 year just paying Medicare. It's very, very important that remember, only if your income goes over 23,226. If my income doesn't go over 23,226, I don't have to worry about the Medicare.
Okay. All right. Someone asked where I get this letter. You said that it's just Google it, and then you Medicare.
You had to fill out the form, and you had to send the form with a certified copy of your passport and all the visas that you have for that financial year. And in the form there is the email and or the mail where you can send this form. So I'm going to put it here. It's called Medicare and Medicare Levy Exemption Form. And you just need to go and Google it.
Just Google it. Yeah.
It's going to come up. It's going to come up for sure.
Yes. So I think it was Kairina. So you just Google it. She just mentioned here in the comments. So Medicare Levy Exception Form, and then you can find that to
fill it up and send it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, the other questions is related to the private insurance, the OASC for students. They need to add that. Can I add that in my tax return? Should I accept to receive more because of this, because of it?
No. So as I was saying before, no. So that say that private health insurance is a requirement for our visa. It's not deductible if in the tax returns. If it doesn't say anything in the tax return, it's just a requirement for your visa.
Okay. So guys, don't worry. You're not gonna receive anything extra because of the BUPA or any OASC that you have. Okay.
Unfortunately, no.
Yes, we should, but no, you didn't. Unfortunately, not. So the other question here, let me just read. What are the types of expenses that can be included in my tax return to decrease the final amount of the tax to be paid? How does this process work, and what documentation do I need to provide?
Okay, so the expenses are always going to, it's different from everyone, and it's going to depend in what are you doing, you know, the activities that are you doing, because the expenses is relating to, I don't know, if you are a waitress maybe, or you are a nanny, or you're working in construction, or whatever you're working. The idea is that we're going to check which expenses you are incurred to generate that income. Example, maybe I'm working in construction and I need to get my car to travel. I need to buy clothes, you know, boots, protection. I need my telephone. I need to be on call. I may be working as a nanny. I need to, the working with children is license, you know. So we had to look at my job, what I'm doing and what I'm incurring to be able to generate this income. Very important here is what you say in the saying, what do we need to keep? We need to some kind of evidence, right? So either the invoice is preferable always, but sometimes if we lost the invoice, and sometimes we have, for example, I don't know, Optus in your bank statement, they will accept Optus because in Optus, the only thing that you buy is mobile phone. It's nothing else that you can buy in Optus, right? But for example, if in your bank statement you had probably Big W or Myers or David Jones, in those cases, we will need to have that invoice because we could buy many private things in these shops, right? So what we call specific shops is easy. They can, you know, get away with it. But when it's not specific shops, it's recommended to have the invoice. And also, the good thing is they accept what we call digital invoicing. So if, for example, you take a picture, you know, if you take a picture with your phone and you save it in the cloud, that's fine. You can throw the invoice. They will accept the picture without any problem.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I will ask you as well, how long they need to keep that document with them?
5 years.
Yeah, so take
they
a picture
say 5 years, yeah.
Can disappear the receipt.
Disappear,
sometimes.
Yeah, to be honest, yes, and this is only in the case they audit you, right? They do an audit in your tax return. That's the give me a second. Only if they do an audit for you. At the moment, and this is where I would like to have a magic glove to tell people they asking, you know, are they coming or they not coming? We don't know. You know, that's the question. For example, this year we have 15 audits in the whole year, which was amazing. And then we don't know because it's random. You know, sometimes people with little income and not people with a lot of income. So it's really difficult to tell someone, yes, they're going to do it or they're not going to do it.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, so it's better keep if you mention something. But and about you said like you can prove like electronics, how it works. Like if you work in an office and you bought a notebook, you can declare that. So
Yes, and this year
what is
especially this year with say many people that were working from home as well, we had the home office expenses. So with this one we had like two options. What they did is they say, calculate how many hours you work from home. So you say, I work 40 hours from home and I was working 10 weeks from home, for example. And then they gave us a little rate, which is 80 cents. And you just multiply how many hours you work from home for 80 cents, and you can claim that as a deduction. The second option, they say, okay, let's sit down and check how much electricity you spend, how much, for example, heating, gas, if you bought a chair, if you bought a table, if you bought a computer. So all these things, we can also put it as a deduction, right?
Okay.
And here, if you buy a computer, it's 100% used for work because, you had a special software and it's your computer work, you can 100% for work. If it's something that is occasional for work and you maybe work 2 days from home and the other 3 days in the office, so maybe we will deduct the computer only 50% or 40%. So we always have to get that proportion if we're not using the electronics 100% for work.
Okay, yeah, all right. And about students is also, remember, you can work only 4 hours fortnightly. So when you're going to calculate that, you need to remember like how many days you work from home. You need to be sure that you keep the hours that you're allowed to work.
Yeah. Yes, I know. And this year I know that obviously some students, because of the hospitality and the health industry and all that, they're working a little bit more. But yes, obviously, and it's a lot of work up there. The students are working hips and hips because it's not enough resources, so they're working a lot. And at the same time, that's why this year is kind of funny because it's a year where a lot of people is getting a really good refunds because we had like 6 months where we do nothing. And then another 6 months where they have been working like crazy. So they have been taking a lot of taxes in these 6 months. So it's a lot of happy people in this tax season.
Yeah, and also about as you mentioned, the work hours relief that the government did for some areas. In that case, they need also to calculate, because it's not the whole year. For some, like hospitality, it starts like not so many days ago, so they need to calculate when it started to work fortnightly, then to mention that, right? Always.
Yeah, so
okay,
it's always just keep it very realistic, and it's what I say with the expenses, we not too far, not too close. You have to make a middle lane.
Okay. So talking about student visa as well, some students, they have questions about the school, because when you are gonna fill it up your tax return, they have a question like if you study or if you do anything. So I think, as you already mentioned about the insurance, as that is the reason why they are here, they probably cannot declare that, right?
Depends. There is an expense that is called self-education expense, right? This expense is only available when you are working in what you are studying. Example, you may be working in marketing and you study marketing, right? And then in that case, whatever subjects you do in study is helping you to do better at work. It's giving you more knowledge to be better at work. So in those cases, when we study and work in the same area, yes, we are able to claim the education. For example, people in cooking, that they're working in cooking and they chef and they study in cooking, they could be able to claim the deduction of the education in the tax return. So that's yes, but that's the main condition, that whatever you study somehow is helping you in improving your skills in what you're doing in that job.
Yeah, yeah. I just have received a question here. Yes, Kylie. She mentioned who studied cookery and works as a chef. That is possible as well. So she just answered yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So
what
we do,
what
Kelly,
they need to prove?
Yeah. So what we need to prove is that the subject that she studied is related. So here the ATO is very, sometimes with a letter with the employer, sometimes when they ask more questions, you just need a letter from your employer where they say, yes, Kelly is, she's doing a chef, and what she's learning in her school is helping her to improve whatever she's doing in our job. And most of the time, 9 or 10, the employers are more than happy to do these letters without any problem. Something that we had just to take into account is sometimes we had subjects that what we call is the feeling subjects, you know what I mean, that are not really related to, for example, if she's, I don't know, studying in cooking and they put like communication or human resources or something like it's not actually about cooking, that we call the feeling subjects. Those particular subjects we won't be able to claim. But the ones that are 100% related to what she's doing, no problem.
No problem. All right. Okay. Nice. Oh, that's good. I didn't know that. So IT, we have some case like IT, maybe like you mentioned.
Yeah, they're working in IT. Yes, accounting, for example, we had accounting. You've been working as an accountant. You study accounting. Perfect. Marketing is another one. IT. There is few that they do in it. So.
Yeah. So Isabella asked if the claim is per subject or per course. How we do it that?
Subject. We had to check that the subject that we want to claim is going to be related to the job that you're doing.
So
yes, and one of the things they usually ask when they decide to ask extra questions is they will say, tell me your current functions or activities, or what do you have to do at work? And then they will compare that to the subjects that you're doing.
Okay. So, and how you can calculate, let's say, what you pay per term, divide by the subject, so you have a price for each subject?
Exactly. So, for example, I'm doing an accounting, and maybe I decide to do a master in international accounting, you see? And if my accounting company doesn't have, I don't know, or maybe I decide to do something in auditing, but if my company is not doing auditing, maybe I cannot claim it. You see, the subject that I will be doing has to be related to what I'm working on.
Okay, perfect. All right. Someone asked it here. Let me just say, Maria, she asked, hi, how would you declare if you work with ABN and also with TFM? I think she's mentioned. Are they different process?
No, Maria. So in the send application kind of thing, in the send tax return, we're going to put both. They just go in different kind of lines. The first line is the first line of with tax file number, and then the part of your ABN, you go a little bit down and you find what we call business income. And the part of your ABN, you're going to put it in the business income. So how the team work is they put both incomes like in the same basket, right? So they will put the tax file number and the ABN in the same basket, and we're going to look at the 23,000 that we just mentioned. And if you go over 23,000, the tax that you're going to pay is 19% up to 45. And then from 45 up is 32.5. But in the same process, so in the same form, you've sent both incomes.
All right. Good question, Maria. Thank you. So following here, the other questions. Guys, if you have questions, we can put here in the comments because I'm reading. The other questions actually is related to lockdown. You already answered a little bit, so I'm just repeat if you have to add anything else. If I get granted from the government because of the lockdown, am I going to be taxed on the top of the income?
Yes, and all depends the kind of payments that you receive. For example, students that are in Melbourne, so the main point the ATO look at is what was this money for? Was this money to replace your income? Sorry. So, for example, we had 3 payments that are taxable in this moment. $450 for people who was and got tested, and some of them got $450 for getting the COVID test. $500 that they were given through Centrelink, and $1,500 in case you had to be in quarantine for 14 days. So you receive any of these 3 payments that are taxable, and you need to put it in your tax return.
Okay, that's good. So always, if you receive anything from the government, like because of COVID situation, anything you must declare always.
Yeah, and there are some grants that are coming, for example, now with what happened in Sydney and what is happening in Melbourne, and there are some as well, and this is it. And that's why we check every year, for example, that the same grant tell us if it's taxable or not. For example, most of the students last year in Melbourne, they received 1,100 through Study Melbourne or something like that. For example, that one is not taxable, right? Because when they create the grant, they decide that that wasn't taxable.
Okay, so it's for this year, as we are talking about from July last year to June this year, Melbourne, I think, was the only place that you
that was really.
Yeah, if you have a student visa, it was the only place that give that money, right? And then for the next year, guys, we don't know yet. You need to wait for the end of this financial year. So they're gonna check if it's gonna be taxable or not, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, Isabella asked another thing. Let me just read it here. So if I receive 450 for testing more than once, I have to declare it all, where and how I do include it.
Yes, Isabella. So you had to declare it. You receive 2, 3, 4. You just declare it. Where are you going to put it in your tax return? You go to income, and it's the last item, is the item number 24. And they ask you different kind of payments. You're just going to put government payments. Is how it's coming in the item 24.
Okay. Isabella, comment here if you have more questions about it, so we can, or if it's all clear. So while that, I'm gonna just, we have more, I think 2 questions here from the, okay, thanks. All right, Isabella, thank you. So the next one, what happens if I leave Australia before this financial year period?
So the new financial year, so ideally when someone leaves Australia, there is 2 things that needs to be done. One is what we call your final tax return. So you just need to do let's say you leave in December. You know, the new financial year just started in July, and you're going to leave in December. So in December, when we leave, we're going to do our final tax return. And then we could get money back on December if we have been working with tax file number, and then we get us the money in December. That's one thing. And the second thing is to claim our superannuation, right? So especially when we work with tax file number, this is what we call the pension. So your employer is going to pay you pension every time he takes your taxes away and pay you. And from whatever you had in your pension, you are able to get the 65% of the money. So that's the 2 things that you need to do when you leave Australia.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you. The last question we have here, what are the options I have to submit my tax return on my own, and how could INS help me in this process if I choose to use a professional?
Perfect. So as I mentioned before, guys, if you want to do the process yourself, you can do it. You just need to create what we call your MyGov account. In case you don't know how to do it, we had a video in our Facebook page if you want a guidance how to do it. And if you decide for us to help us, we just do bookings through our webpage. And then we had accountants that either speak Spanish, Portuguese, or English. And then you just guys make the appointment, you choose the time and the hour that is best for you. Then you will get a quick checklist of what we need to prepare your tax return. Very important here is we don't need your MyGov account, right? Like the accountants don't need your MyGov accounts because the accountant has a special software how we send the tax returns. And this is very important because there is some people out there that say that there are accountants and they use the MyGov account of the students to do the tax return and charge them money. And they shouldn't be doing that because, first of all, in case something goes wrong with the tax return, the fact that the student sent it through MyGov account, he is 100% responsible of whatever goes in that tax return. So we have few issues this year where the student come back and they get checked with the ATO and they don't know these people, then they don't answer the phone, they don't answer them Facebook, WhatsApp, and they are not with the problem. So I always recommend, and I like to teach the students, I say, you want to do it yourself, go there, MyGov, you can do it yourself. If no, just get an accountant that is registered and do it through them.
Yeah, it's important, guys. MyGov, it's a really important thing. So just to reinforce, you don't need to send any information related to your login and password because the accounting company, they have like a software and they can upload all the information, don't have that information. So be aware of that. If you are contacting an accounting company and they are asking that, be careful.
Yeah. And you know, we had few cases last year, you know, when the student has to claim the superannuation. We had a couple of students where these accountants were trying to claim the superannuation on their behalf and keeping the money. So that's why I always say, you know, you make sure your MyGov is private. You know, you just keep the login details yourself. It's yours. You shouldn't be giving it to anyone.
Yeah. Perfect. Isabella did another question before we finish here. So guys, if you have questions, please comment here like Isabella. So I live in a shared home, but my name is not in the lease and bills. I had to work from home. How do I prove the internet and electricity discount? How she can do that?
Okay, here maybe Isabella, we will have to check with the hours, with the rate of the government, the 80 cents rate. You don't have to prove the receipts, and that's probably a good thing. So maybe in that case, when you don't have the lease at your name and you don't have the invoice of the internet in your name, sometimes looking at the rate of the ATO is get you a better result, right? Because when you are a couple and you live with your partner, that's easy. You could do it either the name is not your receipt, but it's in your partner's name. But when it's shared accommodation and you have 4 or 5 people living together, then I will suggest you to check the rates of the ATO, and that way probably you get a better result.
Okay. Yeah, we have another question here related to partner. If the person has like a de facto or is married, the person needs to declare what the partner earnings, or no, it's each one it's an individual declaration.
Look, what happened is there is a question that said you had a spouse, and sometimes there is optional. Sometimes they say, no, I don't want to put you in my tax return yet. So what happened? If we are resident already, no student visa, we are resident, and we are claiming what we call Centerlink benefits, you must put your partner's income there, but because you are resident. Where we are a student, since we're not claiming anything from Centerlink, it's optional. Sometimes what happens is, especially this year, that the partner visa becomes so popular, and you had to show immigration that you had a really genuine relationship with this person. One of the things that some lawyers use is showing that they have put themselves in the tax return as a spouse, because that is an extra proof that they had a genuine relationship, right? But if that is not the case, putting your partner or not putting your partner in the tax return with a student visa is not going to get you more or less money in the tax return.
Okay, great. All right. Okay. I think all the questions, I'm going to just, guys, if you have any question, please here. And just to reinforce, if you have any question, you can contact YNS. They are offering They can help you with the tax return. If you're a student visa, if you're a resident, if you have work holiday visa, don't
Yes.
worry, they can help. And of course, if you have any questions during this time, you can always contact Information Planet as well. We can help you or send the contact from INS. You put here in the comments, so you can see the website from them. So it's that.
Yes, so at the moment, all the appointments are being done through Zoom because obviously the lockdown, no much choice.
Yeah.
And it's what I said, like the idea is, and that's our homework as an accountant, having that appointment with the client is what I say, every client is different, every activity they doing, and most are doing the tax return. Really, our job is to prepare them for the coming year, to get them tips, what they need to take into consideration for what is coming this year. So, because if it's just to do the tax return, is what I say, you can do in my copy. That's not the issue. That's the other part of the professional is having that extra knowledge and extra service for the student.
All right. Okay. Anything else? I think no one is asking anything. I think that's done. All right. Anything else that you want to mention?
No, at the moment, I just want to, I know that a lot of people is in lockdown now. There is some helps coming through the government, either in Adelaide, in Melbourne, in Sydney. Probably I will invite you guys to follow us just in Facebook. We are putting a lot of videos, either is what I say, English and Spanish and in Portuguese, or how these payments are claimable. A lot of people as well with ABN, even with the students that they want to claim, there are options as well where they could claim. So I just invite you guys to follow us, our Facebook page, just for any updates that you want to, you want to know what is happening.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much for your time here. You help us a lot.
No, you're more than welcome, and that's the whole purpose is what I say, knowledge is to share the love. So I hope so the information that we bring you today, guys, help you and clarify any questions that you have.
Yeah, for sure. I think you always have a lot. Okay, so thank you so much. Thank you, guys. So we're gonna save the live so you can watch later as well. Okay.
Fantastic. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a beautiful afternoon, everyone. Ciao. Bye-bye.